Recording in progress. Great. Okay, this is super exciting. I'm super excited to have Naomi Barton with me today, who I met many, many moons ago when she came to see me for career coaching. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was you, Naomi Barton, who said to me, "Don't you do what you love when you retire?" Do you remember that?
I do remember that, and I was so amazed that you remembered that I said that.
Yeah, and it started a whole dialogue, because I said, "Where did you learn that?" And do you remember, thinking back?
Well,
learn that?
I mean, I think my parents are of the generation where, I mean, being really responsible and doing the job that, I mean, I think the journey into people's career paths was so different. I mean, I think it's constantly evolving, but it may have been my dad was really sort of coming up to retirement, and the things that he is really, really passionate about, now he is fully indulged in that world, and he's so happy, and it probably stemmed from that, I think. But I mean, I think part of that was sort of, I remember when we had those sessions, was feeling like, I guess probably I felt a little bit sad for my dad, because it was like, he was really looking forward to retiring so he could do the things that he really wanted to do. And I thought, that's the wrong order. I wonder if it's possible to do it in a different order.
Yay.
Which it is.
And then I think, well, we're going to get into this, because we're really, and in fact, when I went to university, I did a sociology paper, and on it was education, which, of your life and as a teacher, talking about lifespan development. And yes, it said you do what you love when you retire. And I thought, wow, why would you wait? That's crazy. But that was the lifespan when those textbooks were being written. So let's get into your wonderful, inspiring career change story. And you've it's so exciting, because part of your career change has meant that you've narrated my book, Midlife Career Rescue. Employ Yourself is narrated by Naomi Barton. So you've just done a recent change in your career from teaching to starting a business. At what age?
I am 43 currently.
Not going to stay that way?
No, I guess I don't have much choice in that, but I guess the currently comes because I often have to just really mentally check, hold on, how old am I? Yeah.
I know, it's so annoying, because I can't be bothered with age. But the reason we mention it and why I ask that is because many people think they've left it too late to make a change. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been you or another person that came from the same organisation who said, "I've left it too late, I'm 30.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so you're 43, so big shout out to everyone who's in that age period. It's never too late. Tell me about your new business. What is it called, and what do you do?
So my new business is called Naomi Barton Voice, which is not overly original, I guess, but I figured that it covered the most important things that needed to be in that the name of that business, because really, I guess the shift has been me deciding that my voice is a gift that I can share in service to others. And it's interesting because I wanted to create audiobooks because I was doing a lot of writing, and I kept thinking about, because I come from a background in drama, I was thinking always I could hear it in my head. And I thought that the audiobook narration would be a bit of a passion project for me. And I started researching voiceover in general, because there's a broad range of voiceover. But it seems to be that the audiobooks is where most of my energy is going. There's been a few other little things, but primarily at the moment, the audiobooks, which is an interesting one in terms of another reason to listen to what you're most excited about, I guess.
Yeah. So you were sharing with me, this whole thing of your transferable skills, really, or your gift, your voice, and having the courage to say, actually, my voice, because so many women, particularly, they've learned not to have a voice. So you're here saying my voice. That's my gift.
Well, it's interesting because, I came into teaching drama with a background in speech and drama. So that was something that I had when I was at school. My students were always really shocked when I told them, when I was at high school, we didn't even have drama as a subject. And they would be, what? I'm like, but how did you end up doing this? And so I used to do speech and drama with a teacher outside of school. And then I continued doing that once I went to university to sort of get a qualification so I could teach. And I mean, speech and drama sounds a little bit old-fashioned sometimes. I tend to think about it as voice, voice and drama. So once I actually, started teaching drama in high schools, the voice was always a really important part of my practice, because it was something that, I mean, I just really believe in that. Like, it always amazes me. Most people don't even know how their voice is created. Like, if you sort of say, well, how do you get sound? How do we do this thing? It's like breathing. But most people don't ever stop to think about how they even produce voice, and then everything that's connected with that. And teenagers need to be supported in using their voice and being heard and expressing.
And this is
anyway, where am I going with this? Yeah, the voice. So
the voice, you're the voice.
Teaching it and loving that, and of course exercising the voice all the time, because you do warm-ups and all of that playfulness. And the students often used to say, oh, miss, I'd take them through relaxation exercises, and they'd go, miss, you should be working in the spa, your voice is so relaxing. And I'm like, ooh.
I think the interesting thing that you've also said, though, is that you were supporting people in using their voice. And then when you came through with for coaching, and we'll jump to that, how you actually got into that was, it was kind of, and I think this is the thing for so many people, the obvious is sitting right in front of them, but you can't often see it until someone else kind of says, have you ever thought of? So just backtracking a bit, you've said you're finding more opportunities with video production, and you're writing scripts and are having a crack at direction, and you're exploring self-publishing with writing children's stories and romance novels. It's a career combo.
Yeah, it is actually. And I was just, writing down last night in my journal, I feel like there's 3 threads that are coming together, and I mean, it's very exciting because they're all so new, and you don't quite know, how is this sort of juggling act going to develop. But then I actually feel like juggling act's not the right word. It's more like a braided river, or it's like just going with the flow of the opportunity that keeps coming up. It's really, really interesting how you start to sort of, once you give yourself permission to actually explore something that you felt really passionate about and that was really fun. And I mean, that was the thing when we had that conversation. And I mean, I was actually reading you. I don't know if you remember this, but I'd written myself a letter of recommendation because I had to write a lot of those for my students. And so I said, oh, I'm going to write one for myself. And I was reading it to you, and you said, have you ever thought about, voice acting? Because your voice sounds really nice when you're reading. I was like, oh, I've always wanted to have a crack at that, but no, I'm sure you.
You froze a bit. Hopefully I'm going to get you back, but I'll keep jump in when you unfreeze. I hope you unfreeze soon because it's so good. There you're back.
I'm back. Okay. So I think giving yourself permission to play for a bit, and then you begin to realize that maybe you don't have to stop being playful. You can that. And I mean, for some people, they might think to be playful is to not be responsible or serious, or. But I guess when I say play, I mean it's that indulging in the stuff that makes us really happy. That's where it comes from, because it's when we're a kid and that stuff that we just get absorbed in, that our parents have to pull us away from. That's what you want to be doing with your time and energy, right? And now when I get into my little studio and I plug in my microphone and I put my headphones on, I think, oh, this is really fun because I get to go into another imaginative world that a writer has created. Or with your book, it was these very inspirational stories and words. And to me at the moment, that's a really joyful thing to be doing. And the funny thing is that I think the other opportunities that start to come, because COVID was a pretty rough time for me.
Wow.
And I didn't want to be very sociable, but now little things are coming where it's like, oh no, come on, you quite like collaborating, and it's quite fun to actually work with people too. And so that's kind of pushing me outside again to be more connected with other people, which is really is appropriate, I think, because I would probably get bored if I just only was doing one thing, like I wouldn't want to get sick of it.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing about this whole thing about career combo and having many things, because it's the love of variety rather than so many things are all about do the one thing, focus, do the one thing. And then I was reading, who's the guy, he's got the television show where they put people in a chair and he pulls the lever and they fall down backwards.
Oh, Graham Norton.
Yeah, and he was saying he's loving writing books, but he didn't want to be writing books all the time because he said he'd get bored and lonely. So writing books fits alongside his other talk show things, and that's the thing, having the variety is really good. But I just wanted to come back, because for people listening that are thinking, oh, well, she's lucky, she's got a voice, it just happened for her. Now, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, and you might not want to, you might say, oh, family might not like this, but didn't you get a bit of criticism when, do you want to share that?
Well, you are putting me on the spot a wee bit.
Be playful. People are well-meaning,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's not, the thing is, I guess if we think about those things that we loved as a child, right? And so our family maybe have known that about us forever. So then maybe when people who've known you for a long time see you really indulging in this thing that gives you this childlike joy, their commentary or their perception on it might be a little insensitive at times. Is that a good way of putting it? I don't think that people I don't think people intentionally.
No.
And and I think the funny thing is with probably as well, I probably have been very sensitive about some of this because I am a very creative person. I've always wanted to be an artist of some description. Like, I think that was always my dream, was to act or direct and to write. I can't think of a time in my life when I didn't want to do that. And I chose to go into teaching, where I actually did get to not act, but I did get to direct a lot, which was really the happiest times of my teaching was when I was directing and working with students and create. That was always when I was in my zone. Like, I still have the pictures of my sets and things that we created because it was so meaningful. But to actually then say, well, I mean, teaching's very easy for people to understand. Well, they think it is. It's way more complex than people actually realize. But to then say I'm a professional narrator, it might be like, oh yeah, people are always telling me I've got a great voice, or I could do that, or and in fact today I was actually doing this video production work. So I was working with my friend who's a videographer, and we're just making a promotional video for a local viticulture, because I'm living in a wine region. And this guy's really nice, completely different world to me, rural, agricultural man, and he comes to do his voiceover for his video because it needs to be explaining what he does. He put on his headphones and off we went, and about halfway through, he said, "This is a lot harder than you think it is, isn't it?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't talk properly." And it was quite funny. We were laughing, but, it's like, I don't know what I'm saying now. And I said, "It's okay." And just, take a breath. And we got through it. And then at the end, he said, "Oh, you're a really good coach." And I was like, oh, well, that was really nice, and to be dipping into that again as well. I've talked around in circles now, Cassandra, but anyway.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, because again, you're bringing in a lot of your transferable skills. So many people say, I've had people come to me for career coaching, they've been teachers, and they're like, what else can I do? I'm a teacher, I can't do anything else. But those skills are so transferable, and what you've really hit on is sometimes well-meaning people, they say things, and it's really up to us to learn to not have an oversensitivity to criticism, not to give that energy, but to keep going forward with our dreams.
Well, and the other thing that I've realized is that sometimes when there's that hook of, oh, I feel a bit, that wasn't a very nice thing to say. What I've actually realized as I've becoming, I think, just more settled into myself in terms of what I'm doing, is that I've also begun to realize that they're probably affirming a little bit of my own self-judgment.
Yes.
And so now I feel like if somebody was to say that to me, it's like, it's not going to, I think, 6 months ago, that was quite cutting. Now I'm sort of like, well, okay.
Beautiful. So there's teachings there for other people listening, and I was reflecting, I think I might have shared with you, or maybe I didn't, I went to a party recently and somebody said, are you and I didn't know these people, and they said, oh, are you the woman that paints like a child?
Yeah.
And in the past I would have been mortified, and I said, thank you. Because Picasso would say it took him forever to learn to paint like a child, and that's coming back to your childlike play with spontaneity and joy, and not being analytical and not being too critical. Children just plunge in and they bring that spontaneous joy. But I want to come back for a minute to how you chose your business name, because you said, oh, it's not very, I don't know, exciting or something, but it is exciting because do you remember why you chose Naomi Barton Voice?
Well, I think it was really important for it to have my name in it. I think I sort of had this I never thought I would ever employ myself. In fact, I know over the years I've often sort of made comments like, oh, it would be like I wouldn't have the skills or having to be so accountable to yourself. Or I'm really fascinated now how much I was willing to hand over to institutions where, I mean, there's lots of wonderful things that came from that, but I'm beginning to realize now that I make a really good boss for myself. So yes, Naomi Barton Voice, it's like, I wanted it to be that because it felt like a real statement to myself as well, that this is me and this is what I'm doing, and there's no real mistaking about what this is. That's it, and it feels good, and it looks nice. My friend made me my little logo, and it looks very kind of what's the word I want, legitimate.
Legitimate. And I love the thing you said, it was really important for me to feel empowered and proud. So I love that. And so just going back to why you decided, I could actually be my own boss. Why did you start your business? Why did you employ yourself? And how did you decide, what you were going to do, which we sort of touched on, but why now?
I really didn't want to go back to school to teach. I was feeling pretty burnt out by the time I finished my last contract. So I'd been teaching overseas for 6 years, and the schools were really exciting, dynamic places, but very high, intense energy places as well, because there was a lot of energy gunning towards the students skyrocketing off to big universities, and there are demands about living away from home and with my 2 children and my husband. So the whole thing, had been a wonderful adventure, but then to just throw COVID into the mix, as everybody has experienced, that resulted in us coming away unexpectedly. So I just had this really strong sense that if I went back into the classroom, the way in which my energy would be used was ultimately not going to be very healthy for me, and the impact that I know has on my whole family, because my anxiety would be high and the stress levels, and it was just time to kind of nurture myself a bit. And so I think just starting with me, that felt like a manageable. But then, so the beautiful thing is, I really just started by doing exactly what I used to do at school. Every morning I would come down to this spacious room I have, and I would do like physical vocal warm-up and read some poetry, and just, I would literally do exactly what I used to do with my students. And then I would just feel very, you know, I'd dance around a bit and think about them, which was really nice, because of course it was really quite sad not being around those students, like having to leave them without any closure. And so I used to do my little routine and just feel that connection, and then feel happy and celebrated for myself. And then really, I mean, I don't know how I thought of it, Cassandra, other than just going and just doing that, using all of that creative energy to just sort of feed myself, nurture myself. And then, you know, I was writing, I'd like to hear it out loud, you challenging me to, well, go find out whether what do you need to do if you want to record voice, and weekend workshop in Auckland.
Yeah, it all kind of coincided, didn't it? And I think the big thing that we worked through together was it was okay to prioritize you. I think we did this sort of exercise where it was, well, where's creative Naomi? And she was nowhere. She was giving it all out to help everyone else be creative. And then there was the voices around, oh, well, I'm not really good enough, and all that, which is so natural for people. And anyone listening, it's like someone said to me about coming and doing a painting workshop with me, but I'm not good enough. What, not good enough just to play around with some paint? Oh no, I'm not, you know. And so you just play around. Remember when we started setting, like, just go and create some stuff, just do it for you. And so prioritizing you, when you've been a teacher, a giver, a wife, a mother, it's all going out, right? And you brought it back in and gave yourself permission to all be about you, and you knew your patience and energy for giving out was so thin, and as you said, you were burnt out. And then we started doing that. You said, oh, fine, Cassandra, so you reached out for some coaching.
Well, it was when everybody went, so COVID, the lockdown was great. I mean, it was great for us because as a family we'd had such a hectic time, and it had been really stressful. And so it was like having that time to decompress and to be at home. And of course everybody else was doing schoolwork, so I stepped into my domestic goddess role. I revised my domestic goddess role, which, you know, I hadn't done since I'd had small children, and I was really happy to do that because I wasn't working online at that time. And but when, you know, because we were very fortunate here, and our lockdown finished quite quickly, that first day when everybody went back to school, and it was just like, you should be at work. It's like, oh, what, you know, what's it? It's like, I can't go back if I go back to school, I don't know. No, I can't go back. Gotta go to work. And then I was like, I need Cassandra. That Cassandra, mate, she was great. That could be really, really helpful. So, you know, I think it's really important to ask for help, and it's really good to bring in the expertise of people who can guide you, you know. And that's just such a, I mean, I will give myself that. I think, you know, at various times in my life, you know, I'm really happy to reach out and to get some help, you know. And I think that clarity and objective point of view can just be so, it just makes such a huge difference to how you navigate those next steps.
Yeah, and as you share in the book, and that we've got a special bonus in the narrated version of Midlife Career Rescue Employ Yourself. It's the bonus, which is you sharing your story of transformation and narrating it. And as you said, you know, it was all around being encouraged and given permission to tap into your creativity. and then by sharing, which sometimes people, you know, can feel so vulnerable, but by sharing some things that you were working on, then this kind of together, this synergy of, wow, what have you thought about voice acting or audiobook narration? And then synchronicity, that's the thing with passion, right? When it's a true passion, which it is for you, and you know, suddenly the universe says, hey, guess what? Are you serious about this? There's a course next week. And you're like, whoa, because you said, oh, what did you say to me? Something like, oh, I've always wanted to do that, but I wouldn't be able to get into it because I'd need an agent.
That's what I thought.
Challenging that thing, right? Finding alternative evidence, which is what you did. You set out and found out, is that true?
And I think the other thing that we often forget is, you know, whatever it is that you're passionate about, and I mean, I know that we've got this real creative passion in common, you know, like I'm discovering that more and more with the writing and stuff. It's been so interesting learning more about that side of your life, because I didn't know anything about that part of you really the first time I met you all those years ago.
No.
But you know, regardless of what an individual's passion is, now I've forgotten what I was going to say. I was going to say, you sometimes forget things like all of the other stuff that makes up your work ethic. And I mean, I was sitting here yesterday at my computer and I was doing some editing, and I mean, it really helps to actually stop and celebrate sometimes, because I thought, you know, it's like do this and do this and change that. And I thought, like 4 months ago, it was taking me hours to do this thing that now I can do quite quickly and within an hour, you know. And I remember this weekend when I got the software and I'm going to practice and I'm going to record something and fortunately my husband and kids were away for the weekend, because I was not available for anything. It was like, I'm just going to go and get myself a takeaway and then I'm back here. And then I thought, not everybody does that. Not everybody would do that. I'm doing that because I really want to master this skill. But in the moment when I'm saying to you, oh, no, I don't think I could, I'm forgetting that I work really hard, that if I've got a goal, I'm really determined to make it happen.
Yeah.
I will keep problem solving until I've figured it out, and I will ask someone for help if I need it. And I think it's just...
And you're a learner.
We get very black and white about how we perceive ourselves, and we don't see the whole package.
So I really like what you're sharing about, one, okay, there is a learning curve. You had to learn a lot of new technology, and you hadn't been an audiobook narrator. There is a lot to learn, just like when you did the Love Stories course with me, you hadn't self-published a book before, you hadn't sort of really mastered Vlim or looked at Scrivener, and now you have. You've published this beautiful book, which we should touch on too, the COVID tale. Because we'll touch on that in a minute. The other thing you've said, which is important for people, is to go back and remind yourself of all the things that you possess, that rather than looking at why you couldn't succeed, remind yourself of why the hell you can succeed. You know, determination, grit, perseverance, showing up, discipline. You know, I think, and celebrating the successes. And so before we talk about your COVID book, what about a little bit about, many people struggle with perfectionism. Is that something you can speak to?
Well, I think, I think that being very critical and worrying that it's not good enough. Yes, I think sometimes I do struggle with that a bit. I mean, I think it's good to have a high expectation, but I've also been... I think maybe the older I've got as well, the more I begin to realize, you know, maybe this is good enough for now. Like, this is good enough. Or if I listen to a sample that I did 4 months ago and go, oh gosh, I wouldn't put that out now because I've learned so much more. It's not about being embarrassed or ashamed about where that was at. It's just saying, well, that was where I was at in the process then, and now I'm
good, you know,
continuing to...
So what you're saying is good self-talk's important. Sometimes good enough, you know, done is better than perfect. Some people have affirmations. Carla Coulson, the photographer, would say perfectionism will keep you poor. We're doing this interview where we may not have everything all aligned perfectly, but we're showing up anyway, because that's what children do. We're showing up to share. We're not showing up to be perfect. And let's talk about tell me a little bit about your book and where people can find it.
Oh, that would be, I'd love people to find my book because
Yeah.
I love the story, and it's been a beautiful experience of how creativity can be such a therapeutic healing gift. So, I mentioned that we had left Korea in a hurry. And so my daughter and I were in Korea, and my husband and my older daughter were in New Zealand because my husband had already started a job. So my younger daughter and I, really within about a 24-hour, 48 hours, I can't remember, the decision was made that I made the decision that we were going to come away because our school got closed down. And I wanted to bring Amelia back so that she could be safe. And that was in mid-February, so just after the Lunar New Year holiday, which in Northeast Asia or most of Asia is celebrated. So once we were back we weren't going back, and obviously my daughter, who's 10, was very distressed because that was her home and she was missing her friends, and she didn't get to pack up her apartment, her room, any of that stuff. And one night she came down, she was really struggling to get to sleep at night. She often had a tummy ache, and she would come down and be tearful. And one night she came and she was just like, I'm thinking about my room, and she really missed her best friend. And I said to her, maybe I could write a story about what happened for you. Would that be a good idea? And she was, oh yes, I think that would be a good idea, Mum. So the next day we were traveling, and I sat on the ferry that goes between the North and South Islands for people who aren't in New Zealand. And that's about a 3.5 hour journey. And I just had my journal and I just wrote the story for her. And that's the story that has now been published. And it's called An Unexpected Journey, a COVID-19 Tale. And it's the story of Amelia's journey from Korea to New Zealand and beginning her new school and life here. And it deals with these feelings of confusion and grief around unexpected change, and having taught overseas, like we have a lot of friends, and a lot of my students obviously were international families who were moving a lot, and this disruption that children experience in that community it can be really challenging. Yeah.
And you've also, the wonderful thing is that you've also narrated, haven't you? You've narrated the book with your daughter, is that right?
Yeah. So because I said, of course, I've got to do an audio of it. So what we decided to do is, I've narrated it, and then there's 3 other characters that appear in the story, which is Amelia, her best friend Lindsay, and her teacher here in New Zealand. And so then I said, why don't we get all of the people who are in the book to do their voice? And that includes Lindsay, who's still in Korea. So this has been just a really special thing. So she and her dad got together and recorded her dialogue, and they've sent it to me. And I'm hoping later today actually to finish it, because the only person who hadn't done their bit was me, because I'd been busy doing everybody else's project. So I thought this week, the full moon, I thought I'm going to get this audio book finished. But the paperback and the ebook are already on Amazon, so you can look them up under my name, Naomi Barton, and An Unexpected Journey, a COVID-19 Tale. But I'm hoping that the audio will be up quite soon, and it'll be about 17 minutes, I think, 16 or 17 minutes. And but the other thing about it is that, of course, it's a fundraiser. So we're using the funds for that to donate to Kids Can Charitable Trust, which is a New Zealand charity that supports kids in schools. So it gives kids the essential things that they need, because Amelia and I thought, let's use this really painful experience for something. And I mean, and that's the amazing thing. It's been so much fun and so joyful to share that with, and really special for the 2 best friends on other sides of the world to.
That's wonderful. So you're being so creative about it, involving all the other people. So it really is acting, and more audiobook narration is less kind of just a monologue of a voice.
Yeah.
They're using a lot more actors. So I love the fact you're bringing in your family. And as we sort of wind up this little interview, and I will put links when I put this up, I'll put links to the book. I really want to talk about, how do you keep your energy? Because many people think, oh, if I employ myself, start a business, I'm just going to be fried. I'm going to be working all the time. I'm going to have no balance. I won't have a life. How do you keep your energy levels?
I think being able to manage your own schedule is such a gift, you know, but then you have to still be disciplined about it. So when it was a little warmer, I need to revise my schedule at the moment because it's cold in the mornings. I'm struggling to get out of bed, but I'm going to sort that out this weekend, I've decided, because, you know, winter's only just beginning. But I was getting up and I was walking every morning, and I get up and I have like a self-hypnosis relaxation process that I go through. Sometimes I do some writing or I journal. I don't do any like domestic stuff when my kids are at school. I focus that time on my work, you know, because that's the golden time when I can make the most of it. So I mean, I think having those routines where, whether it's a relaxation, exercise, and then sharing this, I think really celebrating. I think that the micro goals, really small things, even really making just an acknowledgement of that. And I found like in the evening when we sit around the table, I'm often saying to the girls, I'm toasting myself tonight, because guess what? They're like, oh,
nice. That's
you know,
nice, because so often we forget to toast ourselves and cheerlead ourselves. And I like the thing you touched on, some self-hypnosis. So you're doing a lot of stuff to sort of create an energy field of relaxation and this whole thing, not stressful striving, but the sort of flow through your workday, love, and the golden hours that you talk about, where people often they'll squander time on things that it's not their super time. It's not, you know, their golden time. So that's really great. And sharing with the family. And what did the family say when creative Naomi came out instead of stressed out Naomi? What did the family say?
Well, I mean, they're just really happy. They're so happy that I'm happy. And like, I think I'm more fun to be around. And I think they're excited, you know, they're excited to sort of be witnessing that. And I feel like toasting myself. I'm really trying to be conscious that I've got two beautiful daughters in my life. And if they were sons, it would be the same thing. But I suppose I am coming to that, thinking about, as women, we often, I think, are very conditioned to not, you know, to put a lot of other things ahead of ourselves. And you said that earlier, like really looking after myself. I feel like it's the first time I properly did it. And I have been quite stunned actually at how much more I can see it's easier. I can see it's easier for my family because I'm not battling myself all the time. And just a lot more. I mean, I think my husband's he's excited for me. He's very enthusiastic. He's very supportive because he would never have doubted. It's only me probably that might have doubted my ability, you know? So that all of that self-hypnosis or the self-talk, that's about just changing those little voices, those little stories that we love to tell ourselves. So even if it's like, you know, one of them is, you know, I have abundant time. I have abundant time to do the things that I need to do, or I manage my time with ease, or you know, because it's not easy. I can't lie. It's really, really busy.
You might have dropped off, so I'll just keep going while you've dropped off. But this whole thing of self-hypnosis is so wonderful. It's just affirmations that you're saying to yourself over and over again. And some people say, oh, I don't buy into that hypnosis stuff, but it's just getting your mind in a relaxed state where you can then program your subconscious with new stories or new scripts. So, oh, you've still gone, so I'll keep going, everybody. And I think that's really what you've talked about. You talked about how you shared how you found your customers, and talking to other writers makes sense. Writers need audiobook narrators. So you also did that. You spread the word, you went through Facebook groups, you linked up with people, you've done cold calls. I can see you've come back now. You can put your microphone on if you like. You're on mute.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I just lost you for a wee bit there, and then you came back. So.
Yeah. So we're talking about how you found customers, and I was saying how you just sort of started talking to people in your natural market, which are writers. Who often writers aren't narrators.
No.
Often. And you started Facebook groups and all sorts of things, and the more you put yourself out there, even when you felt scared or hesitant, which I love is what you said, the more you put yourself out, the more that you were vulnerable and maybe risk to know, is the more opportunities have come your way. What advice would you give to other people who perhaps are about scared of putting themselves out there?
I would say, well, I'm talking to you right now as part of that whole approach, because I just think that generally the world is a really nice place, and people are genuinely really interested. And if you've got a project or something that you are putting positive energy into, mostly people are actually really engaged and interested in that. And if they're not, it becomes apparent really quickly and you can just move on. So I think, you know, I guess probably for a lot of us, when we're at that point where we're trying to reinvent, of course we feel vulnerable and we feel shy or, you know, not sure. But there is a point where if you're going to do this, you kind of got to walk the talk. And I suppose for me, I love teaching, but I really don't want to go back to school. So I was like, I better kind of, it's not like something's going to just knock on my door. It will if I keep opening the door and if I keep being open to those opportunities. And it's just been lovely. I've just been so amazed, even in my own small town, like just really nice connections, people genuinely encouraging, and like just things that I really didn't think there would be so much opportunity here. And if I wasn't willing to just share, like none of that would have you know, opened up to me. So I think just do it. You have to just go for it, actually, with that, I think.
So that's a lovely place to wind up today's session about having the courage to employ yourself. And it really is that, I can see the big Nike tick. It's just like, just do it. Just get out of your own way. And of course, there were steps that you went through. It wasn't like you were a lemming jumping off a cliff. You did your research, but the big thing is you followed your passion and this transferable skills and experience that gave meaning to your life. And what I heard you clearly say is you stepped into your essence. You've always been creative, but you channeled a lot of that creativity into helping others be creative. And now you're kind of bringing it full circle into embracing your creativity, your voice, sharing your stories, but also you're helping be of service to others by helping them tell their stories. And that's the lovely energy, isn't it? Because it's your gift that you are, because you've had the courage. If you don't have that courage, you don't share your passion with the world, and all these people don't get to benefit. So I think it's something to remember.
Yes. And I think even with that, you know, even with this children's story, it's like a friend of mine, she read it and she said, oh, I liked that so much, I wrote one for my grandson. And I mean, I think that is something that I've really thought about a lot. Is I used to be practicing this within the confines of my classroom, and now I have just found a way to do it on a bigger scale. And that's a really that's a wonderful privilege to be able to do that, and I'm just pleased that people are interested, and and it's just nice to meet new people and to get insights into different worlds, you know, from a viticulturalist to a romance writer, you know. I mean, it's very interesting.
So where can people find Naomi in her voice and her books and her romances and all that? Where can people track you down?
So I have the best place to find me is my website, which is www.naomibartonvoice.com, and there are some samples there that you could have a listen to as well. My romance writing is, I've got a website, but it's not live yet. My pen name is Rebecca Barton, and that's going to be Rebecca Barton Romance. And
Barton.
There's more to come on that. So I have a Facebook as well, for Facebook and Instagram for Naomi Barton Voice, but I will be putting links to the romance writing and my other writing that I'm hoping to do, because I've got a few more ideas about children's stories as well. But of course it will all be in wonderful audiobooks, so Naomi Barton Voice is definitely the best place to find me to start with.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So thank you so much for having the courage to turn up today, and mostly thank you for narrating my book, Midlife Career Rescue. Employ Yourself, because you're living it. You're living the book. You're living all the wisdom of the book, and now you're sharing it. And we've got a special audio excerpt within the audio version, which we're just waiting to go live. We've loaded it to Amazon and we're waiting for that to go live, and I'll let listeners know when that does happen. But in the meantime, go forth, keep enjoying being the creative soul that you are, and sharing your beautiful, beautiful passion with everybody. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Cassandra, and thanks for the opportunity to share, and thanks for sharing your entrusting me with your beautiful book. It was it was really, really lovely it was like having a really long conversation with you, actually, every morning.
Well, I know, it was a thrill to hear it. I think that's the thing for anyone hesitating on getting hold of Naomi. It's a real thrill to work with Naomi, and I just was listening to it, coming back, all my words being read out to me by Naomi. It was so beautiful. I'd be sitting there like smiling. I
think for authors, I think there's something really amazing that happens when, like, one of the writer that I'm working with at the moment, the author, she said, I was listening to it and I thought, oh my God, did I write that? And it's like, yeah, you did. You wrote that.
Yeah. So it's really special, and the way that you bring everything to it, it's a very special experience. So anyone sitting there wondering whether they should engage Naomi Barton Voice, they should definitely engage Naomi Barton Voice and for all sorts of projects. But
it's just, you know, I'm always just happy to chat with people about audio stuff if they, you know, it's good just to have conversations, because I've got quite a lot of resource and information now as well, because I know writers are often thinking about doing some of that for themselves too, or podcasts and
So you'll be speaking at the Romance Writers Festival, I think, or conference. When is
Yes, I am. It's in August, in Wellington. So
I'll have to get to that one in my home city. Actually, I'm going to go.
That would be fun.
I'm going to come down for that one. I'm going to book in.
We can toast each other.
Yeah, we will. All right. Well, I better let you go, because I know you've got a lot of projects on the go. You're a busy mum to two and a loving wife to one.
Yes.
Anyway, it's been a delight.
Thank you, Cassandra.